I already know today's video is going to upset quite a few people, and I can already see the comments because today we're going to talk about why everybody is leaving Kansas City. But that's okay, we will survive.
Yep, that's right. So I am Zach Morton, this here is Max Jones. We are local realtors that are born and raised in Kansas City. We've been doing this for over 22 years. Absolutely love it. And you're probably wondering why we would do something like this. And to tell you the truth, we just like to keep it real. We know that Kansas City is probably not for everyone. And before you pack up your bags and pack up your family and make your way to Kansas City, we want you to know what you're getting into. So that is why we've decided to do this video on why people are leaving Kansas City, so you have all the information you need to make that decision.
So with that being said, let's jump right into the video and talk about why people are leaving KC.
All right, our first talking point we have that we hear a lot from our clients here in Kansas City is the high cost of living.
Yeah, so when we talk about the high cost of living, really what we're seeing is a lot of people are moving from the inner city urban areas and moving out to more of the suburbs. And then the suburban people, they're moving out to the rural areas. A lot of reasons they're doing that is to get away from the high taxes.
And depending on your situations, we have had a lot of clients here recently that the taxes have been going up. They come out and reassess every county every couple of years. And in some cases, taxes have doubled. I know in Jackson County recently, there was some big news about that. So it's got a lot of people that are looking for other places that have lower taxes, and we're seeing a lot of that. Either people moving from the suburbs to rural areas, but just with the idea of lowering their tax bill.
So with that, I mean, the reason the taxes are high is to pay for the schools. So there are a lot of benefits that come along with that. But when we're talking taxes, there is another tax specific to Kansas City that people move out of Kansas City to get away from. So they might just move, a quarter mile away into another city like Parkville or Liberty or Overland Park to get away from the Kansas City earnings tax. So we've mentioned it in several of our videos, but if you live in the Kansas City, Missouri area or work, then you're subject to a 1% earnings tax on your gross income, which is not fun to pay.
One of those welcome to the club, and it's like Christmas. It just comes every year, only it's the opposite of Christmas.
Yep, and the more you make, the more you pay. So the gift keeps on giving.
Yeah, so that's something we hear about here locally.
Yeah, then, once you get out into the rural areas, a lot of things become less expensive as far as cost of living goes. The utilities are usually a little cheaper. Your groceries are probably less expensive. And another thing to mention is in Kansas City, they recently voted in new building codes. So all new construction with a Kansas City address, they have to adhere to a new set of building codes that can add up to $20,000. It mainly goes to the
energy efficient items in the house.
Yeah, the home energy efficiency. So, it's all a good thing. I mean, we want to be efficient with our energy, but if you analyze the return on investment from that cost, it can take up to 50 years for a payback. So a lot of people are trying to get away from that expense as well.
And they're choosing the suburbs or just not Kansas City proper. So you can still live within the city limits, just not in Kansas City.
Yeah, and a lot of what we're talking about is when people are moving out of Kansas City, they might just be moving, a mile away to one of the cities that are within the metro. But when we're talking high prices or high cost of living, something that goes hand in hand with that is the house prices, which is our specialty.
That's right.
And so first-time home buyers, it can be tough. I mean, prices have gone up substantially. There are some loans that help people get down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and that sort of thing, which we can definitely educate you on. But people that are already invested in real estate.
Yeah, a lot of our clients that are coming in from out of state that we're helping relocate, most oftentimes they're coming here for work or some other reason, and they've already established, they have a house in another city and they're selling that. And most likely, you've seen in the last few years some major appreciation gains and your equity position has gone up quite a bit. So all you're really doing is moving your huge chunk of equity you now have from the last few years of appreciation and plugging it in to the Kansas City market. So it might look bad on paper, but actually when you start crunching the numbers, it's not as crazy as it sounds out of the gate.
Yeah, 100%. You folks that are moving in from California or from New York or from, really pretty much anywhere in the country, you will find that Kansas City, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So we have people all the time that are saying, hey, I'm selling my house for $900 or 1.1. What can I get in Kansas City? What's the median price point? So a lot of times those people can move to Kansas City and get a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house that will give them more bang for their buck than the $1.2 million home they're selling in the home state they're from. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what you can get. So next point is, reason people are moving is the traffic and commute times. I will say that Kansas City has a fantastic highway system, but one of the things you'll notice living here is there's seasonality to it. We have a ton of potholes because the winters are just brutal. And then we have the big, they're pushing snow plows and chunking up the streets and stuff. So the fun thing that we get to deal with is in the summertime, they have to fix all that. And they'll shut down big areas for construction. And so it can be a little bit of a bear to deal with the construction in the summer and then the seasons.
And it seems, the city's growing, so it seems like there's always a highway that's shut down to one lane at all times somewhere in the city. There's always road construction, and that's probably like that in any big city, but it's just something that you have to deal with. And I will say we hear this complaint more from locals, like the traffic. It sucks. But really, if you've been in any other city, I know Max did some time, I lived in New York for a while, I lived out on the West Coast for a while. There is no traffic in Kansas City compared to a lot of these big cities that you might be coming from. So this is just something that we hear from locals. And after you've been here for a long time, you can start complaining too with all the locals. But in reality, it's not that bad. But the potholes, they are serious. In fact, there's usually a lot of memes on Facebook going around in the spring when we're waiting to they can't patch them all the same day, so it takes some time. So people will take pictures and name them. And somebody, I think, delivered pizza to a pothole once. So gave it an address. So yeah, it can damage your car.
Yeah, you almost said that I did some time in New York, which I want to clarify. I've never been to prison, so not even to visit anybody. So I lived in New York for a while.
Yeah, I thought I caught myself sometime, but I guess not.
For a while in my 20s, before I had kids, I lived out there, and the traffic was insane. So if you're coming from an area like that, from LA or from New York or Texas, our traffic is a breeze compared to that. The 9 to 5 hours, or 9 and 5 rush hour traffic can be a little bit of a bear, but it's relative to where you're probably from, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Also, while we're on the topic of traffic, we don't have a lot of public transportation to speak of. We do have a little bit of a bus system that is not fun to participate in. We have a little, what do you call it?
A streetcar?
The streetcar, yeah. It's not a subway or an L train or anything fancy. It's just a little streetcar, but it is cute and it runs through downtown, and I think it's free to ride, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely free, and they continue to expand where it's like a train. It's called a streetcar, but it's like a 3-car train
on a rail
that kind of runs through downtown and hits all the hot spots. They're supposed to extend it all the way down to the plaza, which is Kansas City's premier shopping area, and then hopefully go up north across the river by the Kansas City Current and take you into North Kansas City too for some dining, shopping, and night entertainment. So
I wouldn't rely on it as public transportation by any means. So that is something that if you're from New York and just love the subway system and don't have a car, that is not going to be your experience in Kansas City. It's very much a car-oriented city. Not very walkable and that sort of thing. But you can call up an Uber and if you've been out and had one too many and want to Uber home, definitely Uber home if you've had one too many, please. But you can always catch, I count that as public transportation.
Yeah, it's easy to catch an Uber, and that's what primarily everybody uses around here. I know people that even take it to work.
It can be done if you don't want to own a car.
Hey, so like we mentioned, we are licensed real estate agents in Kansas City. So if you need help finding that secret spot or maybe getting the best price on the house in the hottest neighborhood, make sure you reach out to us and our team.
Because we'd absolutely love to help you. So reach out to us anytime. We network for a living. We know all of the best people. So if there's something that you need specifically that we can't help you with, we'll connect you with someone who can. And all you have to do is give us a call. Quality of life. So yeah, everybody's moving out because the quality of life is horrible in Kansas City. Now, what we're talking about now is we don't have any oceans. We don't have any mountains. When you're thinking of quality life, I think of the recreation.
Yeah, being outside. It's not super walkable. It's more of a sprawling city that just kind of grew in all these different directions, so that there's not these nice little areas that you just go hang out and kind of can do everything. So you got to maneuver around a little bit. And then our weather, we're seasonal. We have all 4 seasons, which is cool, but it also means that you're just, you're not outside in shorts and a tank top walking around all year. So you got to adjust.
Recreation, we do have lakes. We're very well known for lakes. In fact, there's Smithville Lake, which is a Corps of Engineers reservoir on the north side of Kansas City that's phenomenal. There are several lake communities. Zach actually lives in one called Lake Wacomas. We specialize in lake properties, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely hit us up. There's also the Lake of the Ozarks, which is just south of the Kansas City Metro, about a 3-hour drive. Phenomenal. We're actually going, taking the kids tubing down in Bennett Springs this weekend. So that's kind of what we do, more lake life, camping.
Float trips with canoes down rivers in southern Missouri. So yeah, there's some cool stuff that you can do not too far outside of Kansas City.
Yeah, mountain biking, hiking, lots of trail systems in Kansas City. So if you like living on a trail and taking the dog on a long walk every morning, that is one investment that Kansas City's made over the years, significant, that a lot of their communities have walking trails through them. And so when you're talking about higher taxes, there are some benefits that go along with that, and walking trails are phenomenal.
Parks and golf courses and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's pretty, no mountains and no beaches, but we got that stuff.
So quality of life, I think it's pretty great, but if you want to be in the mountains or the beach, then you might be heading out of town. Job market volatility is our next talking point.
The first thing I think of is just pros, because I think I go there. We like Kansas City, and that's, we love it. We live here, so we talk about it. So the good things about Kansas City is there's a lot of cheap ground, and a lot of big businesses have recently come here and continue to come here and set up shop. But we do have a lot of construction that happens here too. We have Ford plant that's building Ford cars. We have the GM plant building GM cars, and a lot of those companies that I just mentioned can be seasonal, because we do have super cold winters, super hot summers, and there can be a lot of layoffs. So with job volatility, that's kind of what I think about.
Yeah, 100%. So if you are in construction where you work outside, usually that stuff will shut down right around Christmas time or just before Christmas in December, and won't pick up until March, when things, especially if you're building roads or buildings, you might be laid off for a few months during the winter, so there is a little volatility there. By and large, I should say, the Kansas City job market is really growing as a whole.
All right, now we are on to education. Why are people leaving Kansas City? Because of the education, Max.
So in the Kansas City area, when you hear Kansas City schools, not too long ago, Kansas City, I think around 2009, Kansas City lost their accreditation. So they weren't getting any state funding any longer. And that went on for almost 10 years that they did not have accreditation. The schools there were really, really bad, actually. And their since have grown up a lot of charter schools around the Kansas City area to fill that void. So a lot of times people will be moving out of Kansas City to a suburb like Overland Park, Liberty, Parkville, have A-rated schools and are amazing.
Usually the vibe is the neighborhoods that are in kind of the really dense populated areas in Kansas City are kind of the hipster neighborhoods. So you see the younger kind of crowds. As soon as you have kids and you're worried about schools, then we kind of see people kind of ease out into the suburbs to get into those great school districts. And then like we talked about with the higher taxes, once your kids are out of school and you're tired of paying for all those taxes and things that you might not be using, then we take another step out and go a little more rural. So I think that kind of sums up.
Yeah, I think that nails it. You can still live in the city and hit those charter schools, but for the most part, you want to get out into the burbs.
And there are some great private schools down there too, so don't get us wrong if you want to pay for it. There are some fantastic private schools all over the city. And some of the best, in fact, when we talk about schools in general, like Overland Park's got the Blue Valley School District. That's the highest rated school district in the whole state of Kansas. So definitely don't take that the wrong way. There's some great school systems in the Kansas City area.
Yeah, and Liberty and Park Hill are some of the highest in the state of Missouri. I think there's one in St. Louis that's really well rated too, but they're right in the top 5 of the whole state. So fantastic schools, but you got to get outside of Kansas City. How about the climate? You touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, so the climate, there are definitely people that leave Kansas City because of the climate. And when I'm thinking of like the locals, personal locals that I know and our clients, a lot of times they're older folks and they're moving down to Florida.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people that I've sold their house because they wanted to buy an RV and travel the world and get away from, so they can be like the birds and, go south for the winter and north for the summer. Going to Florida is a destination we see all the time. The climate can be a little bit rough, but one of the great things I think is that, by the time you're tired of it, the climate changes. So it's just a couple months and then it shifts into something else. So it keeps it interesting. You never get bored.
Yeah. There's a lot of great memories that come with all this, like every seasonal shift. One of my favorite shifts is when we shift into fall and everything smells like pumpkins and banana bread.
I know. Football.
It's a little chilly and crispy in the air, but yeah, we have all 4 seasons. We have them equally. Our summers do get super hot, usually only for a couple weeks. Our winters do get super cold, but that again is only for a couple weeks, and then decent weather and rainy seasons and all that. But yeah, we get it all. And some people, especially as we get older, don't like the winters, and we'll see them leaving Kansas City to go to those warmer places.
Yeah. I like to have it all, especially when you have kids, for them to be able to swim in the neighborhood and then, build a snowman in the neighborhood and, make a big leaf pile to jump in the fall time. You really get all the memories and a little flavor of everything that the country has to offer right in Kansas City.
That's right. And the great humidity in the summer.
Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. And crime. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, crime. Why are people leaving Kansas City because of crime? Well, I think that would be, that kind of goes with the school district thing we were kind of talking about, how the denser populations that you see more in like the downtown Kansas City area, we tend to see a little higher crime, and I think it's just because it's more densely populated. And then as you get out into the suburbs, the crime generally gets pretty good. I mean, I feel pretty safe in almost every place in Kansas City. I do the test when I'm talking about when we're in different neighborhoods and talking about on some of our other episodes of the subdivisions. I do the nighttime test, like would I feel safe walking around down here at night? And there's most places in Kansas City that's a yes. There are a few spots that I wouldn't, and there's lots like niche.com. There's several places that have crime ratings for any specific spot in the city, but overall, in general, in the suburbs and in the rural areas, the crime's pretty low.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you reach out to us interested in moving to Kansas City, we can do a map video specific to where you're thinking that you might be. We can show you the areas to avoid, the areas that you really want to be in. We can get granular with you based on your situation. But by and large, Kansas City is really safe relative to other areas in the country. The crime's really low. There are just a few hot spots that you want to avoid. In fact, I think we have a video on the 5 most dangerous neighborhoods in Kansas City. So check out that video. We've got lots of other videos in the channel that address that issue specifically. When you say leaving Kansas City, it's just that inner city area, moving out a little bit to the burbs, the Liberties, the Parkvilles, the Overland Parks, Olathe, Lee Summit, really, low crime areas that are fantastic places to live. Our last talking point is the community and the social factors. I mean, people are just getting the heck out of here. Whenever I think of community, I think of, the walkability, maybe the sports teams that the community has to offer. So we do have, the walkability is not so great. I mean, if that's your jam, we mentioned that in the transportation segment.
Walkability, getting to, like, not everything happens in the same place. A lot of cities, like downtown's the hot spot and you have everything you want down there. But again, we're kind of a sprawling city, so we've got our football stadiums on one side of the city, or baseball stadiums right next to that. Then we have soccer on the other side. We've got big entertainment arenas downtown. So it's just kind of scattered. There's no really one spot you go for all things entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the community goes, there's not it's kind of hard being a driving, and I think this goes for America in general, but unless you live in a San Francisco or a New York or something where the community really gels together, it's just tough. When you're driving around, you drive through your neighborhood and open the garage door and drive right in. So you kind of have to be proactive with being involved in the community. Going to church. There's a ton of every different denomination you can think of for worship in Kansas City, but you have to seek it out and get involved in the community, maybe with the schools and the PTA and that sort of thing. But my place of worship is Arrowhead Stadium. So every Sunday,
no surprise there.
Every Sunday I'm paying attention to the Chiefs. So tons of sports and we have a racetrack. Kansas City has everything, but it's just spread out and it's not all in one spot for people to come together.
Yeah, but some of the things that kind of help, because if you're coming in from out of state, transplanting here and it's your new city, it's some things that really help to kind of get you plugged in. As of course, you are now a VIP Mojo client, so we connect you with our database and our people. But finding those neighborhoods that have like the community pool and hanging out there, or have other community-sponsored events that you can get involved with, happy to help you if that's something that's important to you, point you in the right direction with that stuff.
Yeah, you can definitely join our community, and we do want you to think of us as a resource. We network for a living, so we know all of the good contractors and vendors, and no matter what you need, if it's a financial advisor, accountant, a sheetrock guy, a plumber, we know all the good people in Kansas City. So hit us up. Think of us as your first resource for all that kind of stuff. All right, so we just covered some of the worst parts of living in Kansas City. So if you think you can handle those, then I think you're gonna love it here.
That's right. So again, just make sure that you have some natives when you land in Kansas City. We'll point you in the right direction. We are your resource. So whether you're moving to Kansas City or moving out of Kansas City or anywhere in the area, just reach out to us, give us a call anytime.
Yep, we'd love to see you. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.
See you on the next one.